All right, today we got Mr. Sean joining us for some fun and games. Normally Sean stays at home, but whenever there's brake jobs or brake lines involved...
Oh, I live for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially on this car, right? Exactly.
Sean, do you want to provide a link for people that want you to come over and do brake lines, and you love it so much you do it for free?
Oh, it's $200 an hour, just so they know.
You love it that much, huh?
Yes.
I want to adjust my rate.
Well compensated. But I can be bought out with sushi, just so you know.
I don't know if we've ever actually explained the running joke we have here, but years ago when Sean was helping me with my car and he redid some brake lines for me, it went on for I don't know how long. Like, dude, I told you I'd help you, but oh my gosh, I don't want to do them. It's gonna suck so bad. And then I think it only took you like 30 minutes or 45, and I listened to you complain about it for about a year.
That's baloney, because I ran one from the front to the back of the car, single piece.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
That
okay.
was a few hour job.
A little bit more work.
I just didn't want to come out to your garage and lay on the ground and
I get it.
bend and flare brake line.
I get it. So Sean actually does not enjoy the brake lines, although he does very good work at it. So.
I didn't say I didn't enjoy it. I just don't enjoy it on your car.
Oh, wow.
It's just your car.
Yeah, well, Blake has actually had some pretty darn good luck with my car. A lot of stuff has gone in a lot easier and simpler than we had thought. There's other stuff that we've had issues with.
I like the part where you say that because it's done, it was easy. It's just done. It wasn't necessarily easy. Your car was kind of being a dick yesterday.
Was it? Okay, well, I retract all my previous statements, apparently. I'm sorry.
But
I was hoping someone would have good luck with it for once. It's not had a good track record over history.
We'll make these brake lines work today. That'll be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
As long as it's up in the air.
Yeah, well, we got it on the lift,
I mean,
so.
if this includes me laying on the ground again, then I'm going to go back to complaining about not wanting to do it.
Well, fortunately, Blake has said lift. It is on it. It is up. I'm sure we could bring it up a little bit further and finish off those. So to go back what we were just talking about
it fell off.
off camera real quick, we ended the last video with the power steering pulley was not really aligned straight in there. It's not really something it ends up that can be adjusted. Blake even was going to try and machine it the best we could, but that ended up not being the case because we grabbed some miscellaneous parts for this car off of eBay. I think that was off of it's like a Japan Soar, which is basically the SC300 American version of the car. And there's so many little different variances. It was just enough where the pulley was not going to work.
Yeah, I think these have some kind of electronic control that I think it's an idle valve that I think adjusts. It measures your power steering pressure pump, or measures the pump pressure on the power steering and adjusts your idle and closed loop feedback for the ECU. I think that's what this thing does. But the problem is this thing is in the way and it puts the output into the intake manifold and it just doesn't work. So this is a 93 to 98 Supra 2JZ pump. But if you look at the front of these two pumps, if you look at the output shaft, see how this one has a whole bunch of unsplined and it has this wider section in the back?
Yep.
Look at this one. See how it does not have that?
Oh, yeah.
So the pulley sits.
It's a different length.
Yeah, the face of these is the same, but this shaft is different. So the pulley sits too far out on this, it lands against his shoulder.
Gotcha.
And it offsets that pulley wrong. So the pulley that came from this pump does not work. I mean, it bolts onto the pump fine, but it doesn't seat. And if you look, even the smooth part of the shaft is a little bit longer on this. So we need a pulley that comes in. And the problem is that pulley that was on it is steel. And I just quickly took a angle grinder and ground back the back flange of it to pull it closer. And my intention was if I could get it to sit right, I would just chuck it in my mill and actually machine it straight because it was wobbly. But
right.
But the problem is by the time I take enough out, there's a whole bunch of these splines showing. And then I'd have to machine a washer for the front and get that, and it's just not.
Yeah, and even then it's like, will it be right? Oh crap, how do I put more on?
Right, well that's not, and you can put a shim in the back. But so we've got the aluminum with Powerhouse Racing.
Yeah, I looked online yesterday and it seemed like if I were to get an actual Supra OEM one, it was like $280 for
I
this
saw
stupid
those.
pulley. I'm like,
You can
okay,
get one custom machine.
that's crazy. So I went to the good old Powerhouse Racing, which usually is expensive, but again, we've had really good stuff with them come out, so I just got a pulley coming from them. I was gonna opt for the the $30 black satin, but I figure it's going to be sitting low enough. There's some other stuff that's silver under here. I'll just leave it. The machine's silver, so it still ended up after shipping cost me over $100. But just for a pulley, it's a lot. But we really need it, and it'll make it a lot
Looks nice.
mo easier. So
You could get fancy later and change these too, and then you can
nah,
have like a whole.
I'd prefer them black, honestly. But
You ever listen to that?
That sounds terrible.
Just FYI, you might need a tensioner bearing.
great.
Hey, Blake,
Because
you
that-
gotta-
So Blake, before we
Yes.
get too much further, I've got a random gift for you. I got
Oh.
for you in miscellaneous service to the Camaro.
Nice. I like it. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. ECU Masters had a post on their Instagram or Facebook or something where they had a 3rd gen with the 2J in it.
Okay.
And they were like, what do you think of this? And so I posted a picture of this. I'm like, I see your 3rd gen with
raised
a
you one
stock
person.
2J, and I raised you a 4th gen with a fully built 2J.
Nice.
So it's good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome, man.
Well, if we want to run and do a little bit of shopping, we need 2 bolts and
Okay.
a piece of radiator hose.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I will change into my dirty clothes.
All right.
Get started on getting that stuff in and start some more wiring. We've got a bunch of wiring to do.
All right. Sounds good. Well, let's do some hardware shopping for stuff.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
So we got it up in the air. Looks like Blake's got the breather tank mounted.
Size fittings.
Oh, that fit in there pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it's spaced out about an inch so that the clutch line can fit behind it. We're kind of in a snug space here because we've got all these dash 10 breather lines, and then the fuel lines kind of come through the same area, and the dipsticks right here, and the steering and clutch. So there's a lot of stuff.
I know it's dark.
But and then
Nice.
I don't know if this. I don't think this was done last time we were under here. So this is the transmission head gear sprayer.
Yeah. Very nice. We got the
Drive shafts in.
first time we've seen the drive shaft on tape. Actually, first time I've seen it, period. Looks like they did a good job.
Then I've got to modify the exhaust a little bit. It doesn't. Apparently, the engine with all the gaskets and stuff in the turbo final mounted, it moved enough that it doesn't quite fit.
Oh,
so
dope.
I'll cut a couple pies in here and make a few adjustments.
Okay.
It'll fit. It's not.
All right.
It's annoying, but it's not a real big deal. I figured I'd have to mess with it a little bit.
Okay.
So
Cool.
That's
Looks good.
about it under here. Everything else is just about done. We've got to do one more power steering line. All the vacuum systems all hooked up here. So, and it all stays clear of the steering.
I'm gonna burn your garage down, just so you know.
Oh,
Okay.
Because you saw a spider.
Oh, is there a spider?
That spider touched me. It touched me.
One thing Sean hates worse than brake lines: spiders.
The shiny ones.
Okay.
But the first shiny one that I used decided it didn't want to play nice and kind of went, yeah.
All right. Those were.
So other than the bracket, we got to flip. Everything else turned out good.
Yeah, yeah, your brake lines are up and in.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a piece of cake. All I did was cut the ends off, clean them up a little bit, and reflare them with a inverted flare, and they're tightened up.
Nice,
They're
man.
they're installed. The routing here isn't the best, but it's now that it's all mounted, it's all firm. It's not going to go anywhere.
Sweet.
So that's done. I started the line for what's going to go in the engine bay from the master cylinder over to the solenoid. It's already done up. Not the best, but that's what you get with hand tools.
Hey man, if it'll work, that's all we need. Well, we got
I used to make my kits.
the hose and the clamps that Blake needed, and then I started asking the question about getting the pulley for that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so the pulley, they don't have a stock special order, $200.
For a pulley?
Well, it's a whole assembly, but yes. So what we're going to do is just take off the pulley itself and see if they can match it to something else, which I think they can.
Yeah, which pulley was it?
It's just a tensioner.
Ew.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the bracket.
Flat.
When we were doing the brakes forever ago on the episode, you know, when we were doing the brakes, this part right here, this bracket was with the bare brakes that we got. However, there was nothing for this side. So Sean went online, found, because that bracket actually is off a Corvette of all things. Sean, Corvette person on Corvette forums, found another bracket. The problem is they sent us essentially this same right side bracket. We need one for the left, where this needs to be flipped to the other side. So Blake is basically swapping it to the other side right now.
See the sway bar arms behind you? Down there?
Yes.
I bet those in that.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's bad. All right, you want to go mark which way this needs to bend?
Oh, yeah. Like this?
Okay, so...
The droop here
Uh-huh.
needs to go up under the...
So yeah, so show me on... I just want to draw a line on...
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, here, to go to the other side.
Okay.
Yeah, just slap it up there.
Yeah, right in there.
Okay, so this needs to come this way? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if you bend it out, right down the center of those, that should be about where you need to be.
Yeah, so this side, okay. Yeah. So I want my brake to hit
Yeah.
the center of these, but I want this flap to come this way.
Yes.
Or to come this way.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure, because I don't want to make it flat again. That's what I get for not looking at it ever at all. I did watch it install on a set of different rear bare brakes on a car, and we did build these correctly. So
Oh, well, that's good.
at least, or we built it the same wrong way that the YouTube guys did. Either or, it was the same.
When it works, it works.
All right. Reset my press.
That thing looks pretty aggressive there, Blake.
It is a beast. This is an old Harbor Freight 20-ton that has a bunch of upgrades from Swag Off-Road on it. I am a huge fan of Swag Off-Road, so these arbor plates are from them. This extremely heavy, hurts my back every time I move it, press brake is from them. And then if you look at my tubing bender, this is a Swag Off-Road air over hydraulic
Nice.
conversion kit, and I love this thing. I will never own a tubing bender without an air over hydraulic on it, because it's just such an easier way to deal with it. Otherwise you have to bolt them to the floor, and they're -10 fun, and this way is great.
Awesome.
Hydraulic press is real.
Yeah, at some point I'm going to put an air over hydraulic on this so I can just hit the button.
Oh, really?
But for the moment it does the job just fine.
Well, then you'll find the weak link in the Harbor Freight frame.
Can you hand me, there's a set of safety glasses right
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
I don't always wear safety glasses, but I do when I'm staring at a press brake from 4 inches. That should work.
Oh, butter.
Yeah, this will bend 1/2-inch steel.
That's cool.
Alright, and you want to come, when you do this, so you've got some spring back. So you basically want to bring it just a couple of pumps past. Vertical. Slide it out the back. There we go.
Nice.
So it actually went just a hair past.
That's how the other one is,
bent
though.
it, but the metal fatigued a little up top. But yeah, it should work just fine.
Perfect.
There you go, sir.
Well, thank you.
That should work.
That's way more easier than getting online and ordering
Yeah.
a part and waiting
So,
to see
we
if
can-
they're going to rip me off or not, and then
I
it's
can
the right
make this
one.
point a different direction easily. That's the beauty of a press brake.
That's awesome.
It's also amazing for like wheel bearings and things like that.
Right.
So basically right now we've got to machine these guys down a little bit to fit the spot we have in here for the lines, but to do that properly.
No clicky CD properly.
Right, so we've just got to machine those down a little bit, and to do that properly, we got to pull them out. Meanwhile, I am going to try and take off tensioner pulley and try and find something equivalent at a store. I think if I remember this correctly, it goes opposite. Yep. There we go.
Turn on the grinder here, boys.
All right.
Go back together.
Hey!
It's supposed to
Winner.
Sweet.
spin and expand.
What's going on here, John?
Well, we need to free these up and then grease this all up before it all goes back together for the last time, because these need to not freeze up, but this little star wheel right here is beautiful. The adjuster to help expand this and keep some tension on the brakes, and this sucker is frozen solid right now.
This is my best idea ever. I have this on the Mustang.
Bleeder?
Yes, but it's an all stainless high temp Schrader valve.
Oh, beautiful.
I like it.
So because this is the highest point in the cooling system, and the radiator might be very slightly lower than the coolant in the head. I don't think it really is. I think they're about even, because you figure that's here and here. They're real close. But this will let us bleed it out of this pipe. And apparently I scuffed that a little bit off.
Oh, should be all right. Got the new pulley in. Seems like that's going to fit nicely.
New brake lines in?
New brake lines in. So we've been overall fairly successful on fixing said issues.
Yeah.
That reservoir for the power steering fluid came out pretty nice.
Yeah, it's not too bad for a little quickie thing. You won't see but the top little bit because it lives in a fairly constrained area. But we needed a way to fit it. So the only thing left, I'll eyeball it into where it goes, and then we'll just build a little, it's not real heavy. I can't touch it because it's 11 billion degrees. But I'll build a little bracket that'll pick up a couple rib nuts probably in the fender.
Oh, okay, perfect.
In the inner fender area, and then that'll let it bolt in. And then there's an AN10 on the bottom that we've got to get to the power steering pump. So that's like this one won't be too bad. We'll set basically I'll get the AN to the power steering pump so the feed comes out the bottom. There's just a 10 AN bung on it. Yeah, there's a bung under here. Yep. So that'll feed, so we'll put a 90 off of that, and that'll tell me where the height needs to be. And then we'll turn it, because right now it's just round. So we'll turn it so that this one can get down and clear the intake, so it'll probably essentially sit at an angle like that. So there'll be a 90 out of here that'll go down, and that's the return, the low pressure return from the rack.
Nice.
And like I said, so I'll just build a little bracket off the side, bolt it in. The good news is once we get those two fittings done, the power steering pump is behind you, that should be able to get mounted. Everything under the intake that's in the way of is done.
Nice.
The only thing that's going to be annoying is when we set base fuel pressure because of where I had to put the reservoir or the fuel pressure regulator.
Oh.
It's under the intake. It's actually easy to reach from under the car.
Okay.
But essentially what we'll have to do is
jack it up and maybe adjust.
yeah, we'll jack it up. We'll set base fuel pressure initially with the car off, just to get it close. Because I'm assuming we'll probably run 43.5 on this unreferenced. Then when we get the engine running to where we can get a stable idle, then we'll have to put it up in the air and start the engine, because basically you need to pull that vacuum line off and plug it and then set it with the engine running, because you basically, when you pull vacuum in an engine, like at idle, you're actually sucking fuel, you're drawing fuel out of the injectors. So you need to set your base fuel pressure at your 43.5 with the vacuum removed, so that you have a proper 0 point, so that your rising rate regulator, it's a vacuum / boost reference regulator.
Okay.
So you have to pull that line off, set your static base fuel pressure with the engine running so that you have an accurate representation of idle vacuum draw on the injectors. But it's annoying because of where it is, because the engine's running and you have to reach in there and it'll be
Right.
there's no belts or movie or melty bits, so it's not bad. It's just
Well, the good news
you have
is
to come in under the car.
Other than adjusting it for the tuning purposes and getting it running after that, there should be no reason to mess
adjust
with it
that
after
one
later.
time and then you should be fine.
Yeah.
And that was the whole benefit of this injector, because we're staging pumps, right? We have was that a 255? Your old one, your race
Old one
Tronics?
was a 255 race.
Yeah, so we've got a 255 that runs base plus 5% on the brushless pump, on the Deechworks 440 brushless, which is really like a 675 for running it at 20 volts. So we have a base, so we have the 255 plus 5% on that at base, and then as throttle comes up above 3/4, then we ramp in the rest of that brushless. That was the reason for this bigger regulator. Is the other regulator, my concern was it wouldn't be able to bypass enough in that transitory area.
Yeah.
So we might overload it and then you get weird behavior. So the objective with this setup is that should prevent that, because we can bypass enough fuel if we need to.
Nice.
We'll try to make, it should be, the nice thing about ramping in the brushless is we're only gonna add the fuel when we need it, so it should in theory be using the fuel. But the same thing, when you slam the throttle shut, it should help minimize its spike in that fuel. So just better.
All right, so now working with Sean, getting the tie rods he found last time he was over.
I need a mini sledge.
A mini sledge.
Yeah.
All right.
No, wait, no, I don't. Not yet.
Nope, not yet. Wait, no.
Are you trying to break the taper?
Well, I was going to, but I realized I didn't break the lock nut yet.
Oh, yeah, that one's up.
It's been a while since I've done one of these.
Sean, I've noticed a pattern. Whenever you come over, you seem to find things. Like, hey, you still have the stock Panhard bar. I'm surprised at that.
Hey, it's your fault you're crazy.
I know.
Just immediately go, oh, I have a stock part in my car. I
I
better
better buy another one. Like, hey, that pulley looks off.
I'm just spending your money for you is all I'm doing.
Hey, those
nice
tie
that
rods.
Somebody other than me is spending his money.
Yeah.
Oh, I do what I can.
That's like, I've had friends, moms and wives, like, you should hang out with Blake. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't party. And they're like, he's a great influence. You should check out my bank account.
Yeah.
You not heard of race cars? I don't smoke and drink because I can't afford it.
Right. All right. Just finishing up the tie rods. Thank you for Sean for that. We found a brake shim I just put on this side. Need to be put on. I think Blake, you're working on the brackets for that reservoir?
I'm building the lines.
Oh, okay. All right, wrapping this one up for the day. Sean, thanks for coming over.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping with the brake lines and the tie rods and miscellaneous other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, the awkward moment. I know, Blake, you're still working on the lines for the power steering stuff.
It's mocked up right now, so this isn't bolted in yet. It's just sitting where it will go. But the line for the other side actually runs down there, and it will screw on there. There's a line you can't see on the camera right now that sits underneath it, and then this will get a bracket, just a simple bracket to hold it to the strut tower, I think, is where it's gonna live, just because it's a little closer to the strut tower than the intake manifold. So,
Okay.
but it is connected to the power steering pump underneath, so there's a -10 that sits underneath it. It comes down, it does come down, but as long as the rate here is higher, the pump will actually suck. It'll draw the fluid out, so you can and we've got a gravity assist, so it'll pull the air out and then it'll draw the fluid in. It'll be fine. And then the other lines, this is just a low pressure return line. The high pressure line is here. It does fit up, so it goes right here. So we've got to finish the bracket for this and tighten down the hoses, and power steering's done. We're waiting on the pulley from Powerhouse. That should be here next week. So once that comes in, we'll get it on. I know we had some discussion earlier about all the alignments, so we'll see if that gets all of our alignment for our pulleys good. If not, we'll figure that out. But we have brake lines now. I've got to build a little harness for that. I've got to fix a plug I tore right here for the alternator, so I'll get that fixed up. And then once the power steering stuff's done, I can get the line, or get the plumbing for the rest of the charge pipe in. Cooling system's done, fuel system's done, oil system's done, power steering's almost done. I've got to wire the coils is the main thing waiting under the engine bay, or under the hood. I think that's about it under the hood. All the vacuum systems and boost control systems and everything are in. Then I've got to hook up about like 12 or 15 wires under the dash. We've got to fabricate a pedal bracket, which will be a little bit of a pain in the neck, and do the get the brake master, or the clutch master, bolted up and connected in. It's a tick piece, so it should just go in. That shouldn't be a big deal. So that's about there. And then I've got to wire the gauges. So I'm hoping a few nights this week. I'm about to call it for today. So probably one night this week I'll get this bracket bolted, or finished and bolted in and painted. And the last of those lines in. And that should, like I said, power steering's basically done, minus zipping on a pulley. And then I'll start wiring the coils and touching up the last few little wires in the engine bay, and get the wideband O2 controller final mounted. It's just some double sticky tape. And then I'll start on the gauges, and then once the gauges are done, I'll finish up the interior wiring down there, and we should next, probably, if all goes well. It's always
that statement we have to put out there for disclaimer purposes.
Yeah, but if all goes well, we should be able to put fluids in it next. We need all the fluids. There's no fluids really anywhere in the car.
Nope.
So put all the fluids in it, and then pressure test fuel system, make sure it's good, and then we'll start checking. Got to figure out how to validate the timing on this, but we should be able to fire it up. And realistically, if it runs and idles and the clutch works, then it should be mobile.
Sweet.
So
that's realistically, I think, if everything goes right, what do you think, like a couple of weeks?
If it'll depend on my schedule this week. If my schedule is pretty free this week, there's about somewhere between 12 and 20 hours of labor left to get it running. Again, assuming nothing
no other
unexpected
snags
comes up. If that is the case, I would optimistically say next week, or this coming weekend, a week from today, it might be ready to start. If not, a week from then should for sure. So the first or second week of November, it should be running.
Well,
so
we've waited this long. We can wait a little bit longer if whatever is needed in order for this to be right when it's ready to start up. So,
well, and the good thing is it's mostly real small stuff, but it's stuff. There's a few things that we've never had, 100% in the car in final thing. That was like this cooling line. We had to redo this. The tweaks with the coils, things like that. We're about out of surprises as long as all the coil, or as long as the pulleys are good from an alignment standpoint. That's really about it in the engine bay to get us to start. The wiring of the coils is tedious, but there's no mystery there. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing will be just basically turning on the ECU and making sure the ECU's been on. So I know that the electrical system will fire the ECU up successfully, and I can communicate. I've tested that. But we didn't have the engine in the car at the time. So I have never tested it with all of the sensors hooked up. So that'll be the next thing after all that, is making sure all the sensors work. If we need to move a couple wires or adjust we might have to if there's any glitches in the harness, we'll address those. And then, you know, it reading the harness or reading really, I think I said this in a past video, the crank and cam sensors really are what matter. As long as the crank and cam sensors read correctly, that's about it. And they're all fully shielded. So I'm not real worried about noise. So again, yeah, if crank and cam read, great. As long as the wiring for all the coolant and oil and temperature and pressure sensors is good.
Yeah.
There's nothing special there. They're just generic transducers and generic Haltech sensors. We're not using any Toyota sensors for the ECU. They're all Haltech sensors. So there's not much mystery. We try to use good stuff to make it as simple as possible. So again, assuming all that works great, it should come up. We got to test to make sure the fan spins up correctly. Said little stuff like that. If it doesn't, that's stuff that's not catastrophic to
Right.
adjust. So there's like
Cool.
wires in this plug.
So, not much left, not much further. Thanks for tuning in.